see. And I'm just going to ask him straight up, and to start this off, what's your favorite food? And then kick it over to you.
Cool. And you want me to do most of the questions?
Yeah.
Cool.
I wish my background was as fancy as yours. I feel jealous right now.
Can I draw a picture?
All right. Welcome. It is Monday, November 27th, Cyber Monday. Uber is probably stealing your data, or at least they gave it away. Net neutrality, I said this last week, but net neutrality is nearing its end, so call your local congressman, petition the FCC, it's a bad thing. And today we are joined by Nick Taranto. He's the co-founder of Plated. They're a meal kit delivery service that recently sold for $200 million. Find out how today on The Breakdown.
And he was on that little show called Shark Tank.
All right, cool. Welcome back. So I just first wanted to say today's Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday, big day.
Cyber Monday is kind of a new thing, I feel like.
Yeah.
I never really, like 3 years ago, I feel like I never heard about it, but I don't know. Is there anything that you bought today or you need today?
I wish I had time to, I feel like we just ran from one thing to another all day, but I'm not, just not a big consumer, Like, have you ever done the Black Friday?
Oh, I'll do it online. I don't like to go to the actual store.
Yeah.
But who likes to interact with people anymore anyways, right?
I did the Black Friday thing a few years ago, and I saw the worst in humanity. So it was a terrible experience. I vowed to never do it.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Well, today we have a very special guest, Nick Taranto. He's the co-founder. He's a Marine Corps veteran. He's the co-founder of Plated. They're, like I said, a meal kit delivery service based out of New York City. Nick's a fascinating guy. He's spoken at a bunch of our musters. Really excited to have him on here. Nick, how are you doing today, my friend?
Gentlemen, doing great. What's going on?
Not much. I'm going to turn over to Kirby here in a minute. I just wanted to ask you real quick, what's your favorite food?
Favorite food? Oh man, there are too many good foods I love. I've been eating a lot of avocados lately. There's been an avocado shortage in Mexico. You seen those prices go up?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like $4 an avocado. It's probably more in New York City right now, right?
Ridiculous. Murphy, I want to hear more about your depths of humanity Black Friday experience.
Have you ever done Black Friday?
No, but you're making me want to put on some Kevlar and get in there.
That's a good Marine right there.
Yeah.
No, thank you for joining us. I just saw your Shark Tank episode here about a week ago. They had a replay. I apologize, I missed the original airing, but
that's the gift that keeps on giving. Every time that thing airs, we get a nice little spike in sales. So.
Yeah, it was awesome. Obviously, as Will mentioned, you just sold your company too. What was a cooler experience, being on Shark Tank or finding out that you've got a buyer for your company?
Different ends of the emotional spectrum, Sure. Both pretty awesome. I put them both up there with having kids. I think when I'm like 80 or 100 or however old we're going to be when we pass these days, those are going to be some of the parts of the highlight reel for sure.
Yeah, major accomplishments. That's awesome. What was the experience like when you were on Shark Tank? Was it like some people I think I've heard it was kind of a negative experience for them, but a lot of people say it was super positive. Like, were you able to field all the inbound afterwards, and just what was the overall experience like for you?
Yeah, personally, it was a great experience. Just a total trip. They know nothing about what your business is, and the company that went on before us was a lawn mowing service from Southern California that used goats to chew the grass, and these goats were just crapping all over the stage before we went on. So
that's a good intro for you.
That was it was a total trip. And then from a business experience, we did more revenue the month after we aired than we'd done the whole history of the business combined up to that point. So it was really a game changer and an inflection point for us.
Yeah. And just some background too. What can you tell us a little bit about Plated for those who haven't heard of it, and what you did?
Yeah, so we, 6 years ago almost now, January of 2012, my co-founder and I got together to work on something. And what really got us excited was this idea of using data and technology to make food healthier, more affordable, more convenient for millions of Americans. And that was the big project we wanted to devote the next few years of our lives to. And we thought the best way into that was through what's now known as meal kits. So sending customers the ingredients and recipes so that they can make great meals at home in about 30 minutes. That's what we set out to do going on 6 years ago. And we started on my kitchen counter here in New York City, just packing up fish and produce and hand delivering it. And over the last 5.5 years, we scaled out across the country, got about 1,000 employees, and really excited about this next chapter as we partnered with one of the biggest grocery retailers in the country to really go and see how big we can go.
Yeah. Will mentioned that in the beginning that you were bought out by Albertsons for $200 million, and that was just recently. And prior to that, earlier this year, Whole Foods was bought out by Amazon. So it seems like there's kind of this trend of these larger companies buying out, maybe smaller, food service companies. And so are you seeing that as like a trend in foods? And is there an opportunity for maybe entrepreneurs who are watching to get into that space?
Yeah, I think there's a broader trend, and this isn't an innovative or new thought, but there's a broader trend that every large traditional business, called Fortune 1000 and probably beyond that, is looking for innovation. They're looking for hungry young innovative teams that can prove that they can take a concept, find a customer, get that product market fit, and show some form of scale. So whether you're in food or clothing or financial services or basically any potential possible application, the big traditional companies need entrepreneurs. They need entrepreneurial thinking. It's just a very different way of looking at the world than being someone working in a traditional company. And I worked on Wall Street for a little bit, and the type of person who gravitates to and just thrives in that environment of uncertainty and just getting shit done is very different from your typical big corporate employee. So and also as a military person, some of that language of getting shit done, uncertainty, having those experiences is really valuable for being an entrepreneur, and is valued by the big companies that are out there. So, looking at the market, if you can find big legacy companies that are saying they need innovation, or even saying they need a particular product, particular skill set, think about how you can build your business and your team to deliver on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And speaking, so you mentioned you're a Marine. You went to Harvard. You got your MBA from Harvard, and a lot of I guess a lot of Harvard MBA grads go into Wall Street or go into big corporations. How did you decide that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Like, what was that transition like for you?
Yeah, so I didn't take the typical path. I decided to join the Marine Corps after getting my MBA. So I went in at age 27, so a little bit older. Became an officer. I got trained up as an infantry officer, and it was only after that I came back to New York, then got a typical corporate job, and just hated it. I was so miserable working the 9 to 5, or it's really more like a 7 to 7. And I was meeting as part of my job all these entrepreneurs, and to be honest, I didn't really know that was a thing. This is back in 2011. I didn't realize you could take an idea and turn it into a real business. Obviously, I went to business school. I learned about entrepreneurship, but I'd never really been exposed to true entrepreneurs. And after having that experience, I realized that I didn't want to be selling services to those folks. I wanted to be one of those folks. And that's when I decided to make the leap. So I was in my late 20s. I was married, but so there was some risk to leaving a good stable job. But for me, it was really, if I don't do this, it's going to be a shoulda, woulda, coulda. The same way, when I was leaving Harvard, it was not a very logical decision to go join the Marine Corps and become an infantry officer with a bright, shiny new Harvard MBA. But it was definitely a shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, I figured you'd be regretting that decision a lot more than the corporate decision.
Yeah, definitely down in Quantico on some of those cold nights for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a question?
I mean, Nick, we had a lot. I mean, like you just said, it's a really untraditional. I'm sure there's not many Harvard MBAs that choose to go and join the Marine Corps, and I think that when you read articles about you've never strayed away from a challenge. So I read an article about you in Wired that you wanted to be the youngest person. Is this right? You wanted to run 100 miles straight?
Yeah.
So
another wacky idea from yours truly.
But all right, so you wanted to run 100 miles straight, which is not something every 18-year-old wakes up and decides to do. And then you went out, ended up running 82. So it sounds like there's not a lot of challenges out there that you're not afraid to take on much. So I know you're still running plated, but what's the next challenge? What's on the horizon for you right now?
Well, actually, this is not really entrepreneurial related, but I think when you have that entrepreneurial mindset, you're always looking for the next challenge. And this week, actually, I'm going to go 5 days without eating, and I'm going to run a half marathon.
Wow.
And see what happens.
Everybody in this room just asked the same. Literally, everybody's just like.
There's a theme in your life of like making these decisions that.
Yeah, my wife thinks I'm a total nut, which is probably true. She's put up with it for years, so God bless her. But,
it did work out for you in some way.
That's the challenge of the week.
The challenge of the week. All right, that's amazing.
Jeez. Does that have some like health benefit, or do you just want to see if you can do it?
A little bit of both. I found that I'm publishing a book next year that's all about food and entrepreneurship. And in doing my research for that book, I realized or came to understand the power of fasting. As humans, it was only 10,000 years ago where we were either feasting or going through famine. You'd go weeks or months at a time without eating, and then you'd find an animal or find a tree with fruit, and you'd stuff your face until you literally couldn't move. So it's only relatively recent in human history that we, eat 5, 6, 7 times a day. We're eating constantly, and it's actually the research shows is really, really beneficial for even down to the cellular level to go through these fasting periods. So I've been experimenting with that a lot recently.
I heard your business model a little bit. Yeah, everybody starts.
That's good marketing for a food
on brand.
I was really curious when I learned about your company. So my wife and I, we love this restaurant called Harvest Room, and it's a restaurant that sources all these local foods, all these farm foods. And the guy, we know the owner, and I was asking him like his biggest challenge, and he said besides staffing, it's just sourcing this food. Like it changes week to week, and you can't rely on this farmer, and all of a sudden he runs out of this thing. And I mean, you guys do that on a huge scale. So how do you source really whether it's organic or just really healthy local foods for across the whole country at that scale?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a huge part of the challenge of building this business over the last 5 years is figuring out how to do that at scale. When you're just serving a couple hundred people a week, you can kind of grit your way through it. But as you scale to where we are now, it's a totally different animal. We've got a whole team and whole technology stack that we've built to address that. And that's also part of what made Albertsons attractive for us. They've actually got the largest USDA organic private label in the country. It's a $1 billion brand, $1 billion organic brand. And we now have access to that and all of their sourcing as well, which means we're going to be able to get even higher quality product for lower price for all of our customers, and we're really excited about what that means.
Nice. That's awesome. Is there anything that you learned in the Marines that you feel has been like critical to this whole progression of starting and growing and selling a business?
Yeah, for sure. I actually think that the biggest determinant of success in doing something entrepreneurial is just gritting it out. It's just no matter what you're building, it's gonna be hard. And there are more days than I can count where we'd get to the end of the day and we'd be close to missing payroll, or a big partnership fell through, or one of our competitors cut us off from one of our vendors, and it definitely would have been easier to just go home and hang up the boots. But just persevering through and putting one foot in front of the other and getting back to the mission the next day and making it all happen and keeping people motivated. That's how you get to the other side. And I think the same is true going through military training, and why a lot of vets are well suited to this line of work.
Yeah, cool. I totally agree. I had the same experience with my business as well. What does a person do after they've sold a company for $200 million? I think there's a lot of people who are watching this that wonder that would love to be in that position. Like the next morning, how do you wake up and motivate yourself to go to work? What's the next mission for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm still grappling with, to be honest. I don't know the right answer. I've been reading a lot of philosophy, part of the passion also, to be honest. It's like, holy shit, man, this is a crazy privilege and responsibility and honor. It's always been about more than just making the money, right? Like if I wanted to just make the money, I would have probably stayed on Wall Street. So the mission continues here, and we've got the opportunity to deliver it at an even bigger scale and volume. But this is also part of why I'm getting involved with Bunker. I want to take what I've learned and hopefully help other folks get through the other side and see big success and have as much impact as possible. That's what keeps me and gets me excited.
That's awesome. Yeah, we really appreciate you joining the board. That means a lot. We're looking forward to seeing you at the board retreat coming up here.
Yeah, big time.
I have a question from the audience here, from Matthew. Matthew, I don't want to butcher your last name here. Requuejo. Matthew, appreciate the question.
All right.
Nick, are you guys using Facebook Messenger advertising or other emerging tech in creating conversations with your current marketing plan?
Yeah,
what sorts of tools are you using?
It's a great question. I mean, I won't speak to Facebook Messenger specifically, but I'll take that up a little bit more broadly in that marketing today is so different from marketing even 5 years ago when we were just getting started, and it's an entirely different universe from 15 or 20 years ago. So marketing used to be build an expensive campaign and put it out into the wild and measure your success by market share or brand awareness, and that's just not the way to spend money building a business today. So everything we do is attributable. We look at the ROI on every dollar we're spending, and we're taking a meaningful percent of our marketing budget each month, and we're just testing anything and everything that's out there, whether it be Facebook Messenger, Snapchat, Taboola, Outbrain, TV, you name it, we're testing it. And as soon as anything shows a sign of life, we'll put more money into it until we can't scale it anymore. But that's how you go out there and reach more and more customers and do that efficiently, so you get the best ROI possible for your scarce dollars.
Is there one of those that works the best right now, or it changes all the time?
It's constantly changing. It depends on the season. It depends what's on the menu. We're spending the most dollars right now on TV, but what continues to be our best performer is just word of mouth referral marketing. Folks find us, they love what we're doing. We build in the right funnels, so we take those people and make sure that they're referring other customers like them to us, and that's how we built our business for the last 5 years.
Nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Nick, we really appreciate your insights. Last thing we do this every week with every guest, is we go around the room or I guess across the country, because you're Skyping in. We do hacks. So things that you use in your day-to-day life, or tools or podcasts or books that you're reading, things that can improve the lives of early-stage entrepreneurs very cheaply. So I just want to know, is there any hacks or tools or tricks that you use or products that you have that are cheap?
I found, I've been after the November election, I was consuming a huge amount of news, just a news junkie, and I actually found that wasn't. It turned into a not healthy obsession where I was just focused so much on what was happening day to day, and I wasn't taking any action on that, and it made me feel really impotent. So what I've started doing actually is I've cut out most of the news. I'll read a couple headlines in the morning. That's it. But I found this podcast called Made You Think, and it's a couple of young guys, and once a week they'll take a classic book, so a book that's been around for more than 10 years, and in some cases for thousands of years, like Marcus Aurelius talking about Stoicism, and they'll break down that book and they'll talk about it for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And so instead of getting focused on the daily news and the headlines and getting frustrated, I'm trying to spend my time thinking at a higher level and getting involved with some of those classics that have been around for decades or hundreds or thousands of years. And I've found that allows me to kind of keep things in perspective a bit more.
I love that.
Made you think.
Yeah.
Made you think.
Yeah, I cut out the news completely this year, other than just here and there I see it at the gym or whatever, and I feel like I have not missed a thing. So I love that.
Yeah, I feel like anything that's big enough to impact my life, I'm going to hear about, right?
Exactly.
And if I can spend those couple hours a day or over the span of a week, it's probably 5 to 10 hours, and think about how that adds up over a year, and how that impacts how you're just thinking about your family, the world, and the impact you can have.
Yeah.
So that's one big change I've made.
Yeah, it does a lot for your mental health, that's for sure.
What about you, Kirby?
Yeah, so I've got, similarly, I've got a couple podcasts that I listen to. One of them, actually, the first one is Blake Hogan from Nashville. Our chapter leader in Nashville told me about this one, and it's probably because the guy who does it is in Nashville, but it's called Story Brand. It's an awesome podcast where just the guy is a genius when it comes to clarifying your message and branding. And his premise is that that's what's wrong with most companies, is it's just not clear what they do. So he goes through different scenarios with different companies on the podcast, and it's super beneficial for any entrepreneur. And then How I Built This is the other one. So that's an awesome one. We just partnered with WeWork, and the founder of WeWork is on there. It was a great episode, so I definitely recommend checking that out.
It's awesome. My hack is one we've actually mentioned before. I just want to mention it again. It's called Fiverr. It's spelled kind of weird, Fiverr. Sometimes we have veterans that'll make the assumption that they need to spend a lot of money on commercials or logos and things like that. In reality, you can go on a website like Fiverr and you can have somebody create logos or commercials or whatever you need for like $5 upwards. It can get more expensive. You layer on features and stuff, but Fiverr is extremely valuable. I've used it before for logo generation. It cost me $8, and that was about $600 cheaper than the next guy that was going to do it. So that's Fiverr. So, Nick, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the breakdown this week. Kirby, any last thoughts?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I learned a lot today. So
it's awesome.
For sure, guys. No, appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you guys next week in Texas.
Yeah,
agreed.
Absolutely.
Cool. And the last thing, next week we have Carson Goodale. He's the founder of Fan Food, local here to Chicago. He's still active duty in the Army. Guy's killing it right now. He was in our cohort 2 cohorts ago. We're excited to have him on, as well as Deepa Kartha, her company Zinda. She was in our previous cohort, so they'll be joining us next week. We are challenging 1,000 military veterans to go out and start businesses. That challenge starts on January 9th, as we're going to officially start this. So between now and then, we're asking all military veterans or people in the military community, or if you know somebody out there that wants to start a business, have them go to bunkerlabs.org/launch-lab-online Sign up today. Starts January 9th. Thousands of hours of content, linear education platform. That's my plug. So just go to it. Please ask your questions for next week, and we look forward to seeing you next week on the Breakdown. Thanks.
Remember, a year from now, you'll wish you started today, so take action.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.